Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's John here with Cine Park Rangers coming at you today with another ride ideas / park retheme video. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and if you would consider hitting that subscribe button for us, clicking like on this video, it helps out a ton. We appreciate it in advance. The current landscape of film and theme parks is really interesting right now. On the film end of things, we have the Writers and Actors Guild strikes, which are currently happening, and they've all but halted every single production in Hollywood. Some companies are doing better than others, working with the guilds to make sure that they can keep their productions on schedule and meeting the demands of the strike. But big players like Disney and Warner Brothers are not so quick to meet resolutions. Here at the channel, we support the guilds and their action to strike, but we do hope that they're able to make an agreement soon so that people can get back to work and we can start enjoying movies again. We're seeing the effects of the strike play out in real time in some sense already, with movies like Dune getting pushed and a lot of the Marvel slate getting pushed or axed altogether. The effects of this thing are very real. But what does that have to do with theme parks? Well, not a ton, other than the fact that theme parks use a lot of movie IP for their theming. And what's the state of theme parks right now? For Universal, they're doing pretty good. Epic Universe is coming, and that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about that some more later. And Disney's in a little bit of a weird spot. Last weekend, we got D23, and they announced some various things to relative levels of enthusiasm. But by and large, it continues to feel like parks abroad get all the love, and parks here suffer. Disneyland definitely gets more love than Disney World. But the only notable thing to come to Disney World is a retheming of Dino Land USA, which, let's face it, that was way overdue for a retheme anyway. And bringing franchises like Encanto and Indiana Jones does feel a little bit weird for Animal Kingdom. However, anything that's not Dino Land is welcome. But on that note of Disney World just not getting the love that it once did, it feels like, in a lot of ways, it's a shell of its former self, which is really sad. I've mentioned this before, but last October in 2022, my family and I visited Disney World, and we had a great time. We truly did. My son, who was only about 1 at the time, got to ride rides that I rode as a kid, and I got to watch his face light up as we went through rides like Pirates of the Caribbean or Toy Story Mania. And memories like that are always going to be fond and have a special place in my heart, and it's a large reason why I love Disney parks to begin with. But I can't help but feel like the park is a shell of what it once was, much like many of the movies that we see today, with constant sequels, prequels, and franchising out of movies that just, let's be honest, don't need to be franchised. It can feel a little bit exhausting, and the overall quality of movies has dropped significantly. It's hard to even be excited about a lot of movies anymore. Now, I will say, as I've mentioned in previous videos, things like Barbie and Oppenheimer and that spectacle event that happened this summer is telling for what audiences truly want right now. And that's interesting to examine, look at, and also be excited about. I think we're moving in the right direction in terms of movies, but are we moving in the right direction with our theme parks? See, theme parks to me used to be a place where you could adventure and be immersed in these worlds that were so fantastical on your screen at home, they would come to life right before your eyes. It's possible that that magic has waned away because I'm older now, but I'd also just like to point out that attention to detail is a large factor of what makes that immersion so important for young park guests and for older park guests. Today, I want to look at Universal a little bit more. Universal Studios Park is plagued by rides with ride screens. Islands of Adventure also has this issue to a smaller extent as well. Rides like the Transformers ride, or Fast and Furious, or Reign of Kong, or the Jimmy Fallon ride. The list almost feels endless. Basically, what you do with these rides is you put on some glasses, you're watching a movie, you're in your ride vehicle, and you get shaken around a little bit while you're on the ride. And some of them are more fun than others, in fairness. The Transformers ride, to me, is fairly enjoyable. Harry Potter stuff, all of that's pretty ace. But then, like, Reign of Kong and the Fast and Furious ride, yeah, come on. While I can appreciate what Universal tries to do in being innovative with their ride systems, it didn't used to always be this way. There's something to that old park dark ride, you know? In fact, let's do something for a second. Let's take like 10 seconds. Think about your favorite classic dark ride. And go. All right, now that we're feeling nice and nostalgic, I'd like to point out that the only remaining opening day attraction at Universal is E.T. Adventure. This was arguably one of my wife and I's favorite rides that we rode while we were in Universal in April of this past year. It's fun because you get to see E.T., you get to ride the bike. It has that old ride sort of musty smell that I can't exactly explain. If you're a park goer and you enjoy going to theme parks and stuff, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It just has that feel, it has that magic. And it has a lot of practical effects. In fact, it only has practical effects. So when you're going through, you're seeing animatronics of all these cute little aliens, and you're seeing stars lit up by these tiny little lights. And there are water features and different things that just make the ride feel visceral and alive and like you're actually a part of what's going on, versus throwing on a pair of glasses, looking at a screen, and then you just lose it a little bit, It's not that those rides aren't fun or enjoyable, but the immersion is nowhere near the same as when you're actually seeing something in front of you. And I don't want to beat a dead horse. I have videos on this exact subject matter. In fact, I'll link one of them at the end of this video for you to check out. But it is something that I think is pertinent when you're going to the parks and when you're considering what sort of new rides you want to put into your park. In contrast to Universal Studios only having E.T. Adventure left as an opening day attraction, Magic Kingdom has many of its opening day attractions still operating with slight updates, but they still keep that feeling, that dark ride magic that we know and love, which is why Magic Kingdom is one of the best regarded parks in the world. I know there are varying opinions on that park as of late, but by and large, we'll just take it as a collective historic view of the park so that we can examine it in its heyday, let's say. And now you're going, John, what are you getting at? Here's what I'm getting at. Universal is nearing the completion of Epic Universe, which is about 15 minutes south of where its main parks are at. Actually very close to Disney World. And that park is going to bring the fun of Nintendo to Universal, which is super cool. And of course, it's going to get other lands that we just aren't even aware of yet. This park is going to position Universal in a prime position to be direct competition to Disney World that it has not able to be up to this current juncture. Yes, Universal is competition to Disney. However, they only have 2 parks where Disney in Orlando has 4 parks. So realistically, after Epic Universe, they only need 1 more park to be direct competition with Disney. So in a few years, after Epic Universe has been open for a little while and people are enjoying it and the waits start to die down and the hype starts to die down a little bit, the question then becomes, what's next? I think I've got the answer. A Universal Classics Park. As I just mentioned, the only opening day attraction left at Universal Studios is E.T. Adventure, but they do have some other classic movie rides like The Mummy. Outside of that, though, the park is inundated with Minions, Harry Potter, and family. A Universal Classics Park could be a more direct answer to Disney's Magic Kingdom. Imagine walking into a park that has E.T., yes, The Mummy, yes, but also Back to the Future, Jaws, Kong, Jurassic Park, Terminator, a Universal Classic Monsters ride, and you're probably thinking like, John, that's just Universal in the early 2000s. And yes, to a degree, but that's not exactly what I'm suggesting. I'm not suggesting a defunct land full of old Universal rides or shows. What I'm suggesting is a park themed after Universal's most popular films and franchises over the years, specifically ones that predate probably 2000, that give younger audiences a chance to fall in love with these franchises like I was able to in the early 2000s visiting Universal Studios. I think you can amp up the immersion by having character actors everywhere, by having more fun shows, and maybe you even market it by re-releasing a lot of these classic films in theaters. I can remember in the early 2000s when Universal re-released E.T. in theaters, Toys R Us had E.T. plushies, there was merch for it, there was trailers for it. For all intents and purposes, as a 6 or 7-year-old, I thought the film was brand new. And I think that there is something to doing that with younger audiences to make them excited about your films. And I think that the rides you make for these films need to be true to character and filtered through ride type and thrill level. Imagine recreating the E.T. ride in the Classics Park with updated animatronics and a slightly better ride system, which would also allow you to vacate the current ride and make room for some newer Universal IP. And I have a video on Jurassic Park and the lack of identity that that section of Islands of Adventure already has. But if you were to do a Universal Classics Park, you could simply move Jurassic Park to the Classics Land and allow the current Jurassic Park to naturally evolve into Jurassic World like they've done in Universal Hollywood. You could also continue to free up space in Islands of Adventure by scrapping Reign of Kong and putting in a cooler, more intense Kong Dark ride in the Classics Park. I'm thinking more animatronics. I'm thinking a ride system that's similar to Rise of the Resistance or something along those lines. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but something to make the ride feel more tactile unless you're wearing glasses and looking at screens. We could also think of a new ride for Back to the Future. That's such a fun movie, and it would be great for kids to be able to enjoy that franchise. And how about a Universal Classic Monster ride? I'm thinking the type of ride that allows for the rider to feel scared, a little anxious. You know, the one that your buddy would be like, bet you ain't gonna do that. But then you go and do it, and you're like, oh man, I did it. I did the ride. I did the thing. Something like that would be insanely cool. And how about a Terminator Dark ride where it's based after the first movie and Arnold Schwarzenegger is chasing you, man? Or make it an attraction based on the first 2 movies and start with him chasing you, and then maybe halfway through he becomes the one that's trying to help you out, and you have a callback to the T2 show that they used to do and incorporate elements from that show into the Dark ride. I think the possibilities with something like this are really endless, and it's a good way to get younger kids to care about cinema. It's also a fun way to give the parks a layer of overlap that they wouldn't otherwise have. Like if you had a Classics Park with Jurassic Park and then you have Islands of Adventure with Jurassic World. There are certain things that you could get at Jurassic Park that you couldn't get at Jurassic World and vice versa. And it drives people to want to go to both parks. You could even set up something like a cool walkthrough movie history museum that showcases all of Universal's movies up to current day. Now, one of the big questions that I have about a Classics Park is, if it is going to be Universal's answer to Magic Kingdom, what's Universal's castle? I know that in Universal Studios, they sort of have Hogwarts, and that's kind of it. But let's be real, that's not anywhere close to the same as the Cinderella Castle. You can't really walk under it. It's not exactly to scale. It's fun to look at. It is cool. Don't get me wrong. But what could Universal use as their Cinderella's castle? Let me know what you think about that down in the comments. But at the end of the day, I think what I'm getting at with this one is that Disney really is hurting right now. Disney World in particular is hurting right now. And I would love to see them make changes that better suit their guests' wants, needs, and that let their guests feel valued. I think as it stands, Universal is doing a good job of servicing guests in that way, even if their attractions aren't as polished or fun as the ones at Disney. Selfishly, this ride idea is definitely one that I would just love to see. I also would just really love to see the Jaws ride come back, but that's just me personally. But what do you think? I want to throw it off to you. I want to know your thoughts about what you think Universal is up to right now. Do you think that they are really going to overtake Disney? I'm seeing a lot of speculation that that's going to be the case. Or do you think Disney is able to make a comeback? Do you think they're too far gone? Let us know down in the comments. And before we get out of here, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, share it if you want, and click that notification bell if you can't live without these videos. We really do appreciate you tuning into these videos, and we'll catch you on the next one.